So that post that I just put up about the president of Harvard, Claudine Gay. So I was reading further. It was a short article, but this is really weird. Okay, so it said the recent Crimson, which is their paper on the campus, report said prominent professors are among the signatories of the letter. So this letter was written and addressed to the Harvard Corporation by these professors that are backing her, was written and addressed to the Harvard Corporation after blowback and calls for Gay to resign following her testimony on Tuesday. The report said, addressing the corporation, they wrote, "They urge you in the strongest possible terms to defend the independence of the university and to resist political pressures that are at odds with Harvard's commitment to academic freedom, including calls for the removal of President Claudine Gay." Quote, "The critical work of defending a culture of free inquiry in our diverse community cannot proceed if we let its shape be dictated by outside forces." That just sounds creepy to me. The critical work of defending a culture of free inquiry in our diverse community cannot proceed if we let its shape be dictated by outside forces. Outside forces? Really? That sounds this would explain why such the secrecy in the universities, or all their dark secret societies that go back to the 1800s, and Yale and Harvard are at the top there, but they all have them. Yeah, they're not diverse. Look, this is not about black and white and Jews and it's not. I mean, it's about, if you're a child of God, that's what it's about, but it doesn't matter what skin color or any of that. No, it's not about that. These people, these overeducated people that are so educated, they obviously have been misguided morally in every way, they're taking everybody back. Like, as AI advances, we're heading back to the Stone Age. Like, we are not maturing as humans because people have look at all the people. It shocked me that after all these years, people got pulled into the BLM stuff. The BLM, their name alone was a disgrace. It was. It's basically saying our color matters more than yours, and because of this, we're going to do this to you now. And they actually did it. They did it. I said I had a family member who was being messed with in school by teachers because he was white. Messed with his head. It's like, no, nobody has a right to do that. I don't care what we're all enslaved, okay? So in slavery, it's a debt slave system. And at some point in the history of the world, there's been whites, there's been blacks, there's been many different colors and brown in between that have been enslaved. Like, the fact that we can't get to that place, but I think most of us can, I do. I think it's this small group of overeducated fools that have become so enamored with all the letters after their name that they can't see how morally they went off some dark path. But then again, they've been sitting in a university that has a bunch of secret societies, and the reason they're secret is because they're dark, and they're tied to $1 or $1 million trusts. Yeah. I mean, Yale alone, you can find that information out. They have like 10 of them over there besides Skull and Bones. They have 9 others, and they're all tied to trusts. And those are what run the campuses. They do. Yale's paper wrote back in the 1800s that the student paper said that Skull and Bones had taken over the campus. They were running it financially and everything. So I think that's what's happened on most of these campuses. They're not fraternities. They're not just clubs. They are syndicates, and they bring these young kids in, because then that's that syndicate that goes, really, it traps you there, because it's just as John Kerry and George Bush both said themselves, it's so secret we can't talk about it. And that's all of those people who end up getting in government, and then they shape the culture. The universities do. It's a big problem. So now I understand why they would say that. The critical work of defending a culture of free inquiry in our diverse community cannot proceed if we let its shape be dictated. Because they want to dictate the shape of us, of this whole country, and they're taking us into the toilet. Because they're not diverse. They're racist. None of these professors have any insight. They don't. They are not smart people. They look at the path they're on. I mean, the very fact that you cannot look at calling for the genocide of the Jews as a hate speech is unbelievable. And what's even more unbelievable, it's because these universities have labeled a bunch of stuff hate speech because they've made everybody so sensitive. Oh, yeah, they're making people weak deliberately. But besides that, there's a bunch of things they've labeled as hate speech, these universities, in all their wisdom. Yeah, no wisdom. Yet, they could not label genocide of the Jews chanting as hate speech. Unbelievable. The stupidity. This really has nothing to do with Jews, blacks, whites, browns. It doesn't. It has to do with stupidity and wisdom. And everybody in the university, it doesn't seem, because we're the ones that are speaking up against it. Nope, silent, still to this day. No, I think most of them, because they get pulled in by whatever darkness is controlling these schools. And clearly this line from the corporation of Harvard, the critical work of defending a culture of free inquiry in our diverse community cannot proceed if we let its shape be dictated by outside forces. That's creepy. Apparently, Gay tried to walk back her stance the following day, but ended up repeating it without clarifying if calls for genocide were allowed. The university has punished other forms of perceived hate speech. By the way, the representative Elise Stefanik, she's from Harvard. So it said, I didn't know that was in here. Yeah, so they all said the same thing. Penn said it, and the two other, they all said the same repeating thing, that they couldn't say if it violated the university's code because it depended on the context. So this is what I mean. That what the professors do, they do this in the peer-reviewed too. It's fluffy words. I don't think a lot of people pick up on that in a lot of these peer-reviewed papers. Is that they're really not saying anything, and then they've wasted 5 or 6 minutes of your time reading everything, and it's just a bunch of fluff, but really they've said nothing. That's what I think all that education does. It's just a way to throw some words out there, and then it's going to sound good. People are going to buy this, this is a simple one. This was a simple one. If you're going to label things on your campus as hate speech, and you can't label genocide of the Jews as hate speech, and you're going to say it depends on the context, then what it shows is you're a racist. It shows that something's wrong with you. It shows that you're not somebody that is very wise at all. But then you wouldn't be, because you probably spent way too long in these dark universities. Yeah, the universities is where it all stems from, and they shape the society, and it's time for DEI to go. Let's call it DIE. It needs to die.